In my last video, we talked about the inciting incident that comes at the very start of Act 1. The next major event comes near the end of Act 1, the first act turning point.
Entering the Upside Down.
Everything in a well-structured story is set up and payoff. The inciting incident is the setup for the climax. It is usually about the A story, the main plot, the story you tell when giving an outline of what happens.
People are always asking me if I know Tyler Durden.
3 minutes. This is it. Ground zero.
The first act turning point is a setup for what will pay off at the end of Act 2. It is usually focused on the B story, the personal journey of your character, which is the real story.
What am I gonna do?
Run away, Simba. Run. Run away and never return.
This is where the inciting incident impacts your protagonist directly.
This is crazy. You want me to hit you? That's right.
They may have been aware of it earlier, maybe from the very start, but until now, they have been either avoiding having to deal with it or trying things that have not worked out. Pretty soon, a point comes when your protagonist must make a choice. This usually comes in 2 steps, setup and payoff. In the final sequence of Act 1, they are confronted with the hard truth of the situation and they dodge it, refusing the call to adventure. But then something happens that forces them to do the thing they were avoiding.
I just found out that a girl got killed here last week. And you knew it.
That thing that happens turns their world upside down. They must act.
Then why don't we have one more drink and go down and cut that shark open?
Martin? Can you do that?
I can do anything. I'm the chief of police.
This is the point of no return for your protagonist. The status quo they had enjoyed throughout Act 1 is shattered. The inciting incident established the problem and the stakes. The Act 1 turning point makes it personal. The fate of the world may be at stake, but what matters to your protagonist is protecting their child or saving the ones they love.
We're leaving this house in 60 seconds.
And those stakes should be life or death, either literally or metaphorically. This can happen in a single moment of action, or can play out over a whole sequence, leading up to their crucial decision.
Until I get back my $5,000, you're gonna get more than you bargained for! I'm your goddamn partner!
The first act can end very cleanly on this moment, or let things play out a bit more before we really get into Act 2 proper. Either approach is fine. Just don't waste too much time now that the die is cast. Get on with it. Also, while the Act 1 turning point forces your hero to act, they may not be acting wisely.
Just focus on the memories. Patrick.
The point of most story is that the protagonist needs to learn some hard lesson. They pursue what they want, what they think is right, but ultimately, they get what they need. We'll talk more about that in later videos.
Exceptions that prove the rule.
Sometimes your hero does not refuse the call to adventure. They are the kind of person who is eager for it, in fact. They are given a mission and they accept it.
And I'm here to report a terrible crime.
And what terrible crime is that?
This one.
The early Bond films are a good example of this. There is very little B story in them. No real love interest, no lasting relationships to interfere with saving the world.
Codename? Thunderball.
But when you add that extra layer, as they did in Her Majesty's Secret Service and in the more recent Daniel Craig films, there is added depth to the story.
Darling, you're in trouble. What is it?
There's people after me.
Can I help?
Gravity is another excellent example of a film that has virtually no B story. No love story, no relationship. It's a survival film, pure and simple. And all the better for this clear focus. So having that personal motivation is not essential. Sometimes life and death stakes are enough.
This is life or death, man.
That doesn't contradict what I was saying earlier. The Act 1 turning point is still personal. It's still a critical moment of choice for your protagonist. It just doesn't necessarily involve anyone else. Drama tends to do the opposite. It's all about relationships rather than personal goals.
Where did that come from? It's the same night.
Where did you get it?
But there are exceptions here as well.
No way back.
There are many ways to approach this first critical turning point. It will depend on the genre, what kind of protagonist you have, and what journey you want to take them on. The important thing is whether they choose willingly or wisely, or are thrust into this new crisis kicking and screaming. The important thing is their world is changed forever and they cannot go back to the way it was.
There is no going back.
If they could, you would have no story.
No story.
Till next time, I'm Phil Moore. Trip it.